watercolor friends, welcome to my watercolor channel. I'm Laurel Hart, and I'm pleased that you would take the time to spend with me for this video. I want to start with a short little historical story of an event that happened in Park City, Utah. This was on a Sunday afternoon, July 19th, 1981. The Beach Boys were playing an outdoor concert at Park West, which is now called the Canyons. It's a ski resort. And after the concert, some in the crowd drifted into Park City. Among them were three men in their 20s and early 30s. They were not dressed for the cool evening temperatures. Early the following morning, the three men, looking for a place to crash, spotted the 85-foot-tall Silver King Coalition building on Park Avenue. They climbed the chain-link fence and went inside. To stay warm, they built a fire on the building's wooden floor. At that time, the Coalition building was the symbol of Park City. It was built in 1901 to bring ore down from the Silver King mine, and it operated faithfully until the mine closed in 1952. About 3 a.m. on July 20th, the three men thought they heard someone coming, and they slipped out of the building. They took refuge in a nearby railroad car and went to sleep. They later testified that they believed their fire was out. It wasn't. About 4:30 a.m., a nearby resident smelled smoke and alerted the dispatch office in Colville, nearby. A few minutes later, flames burst through the Coalition building's roof. It burned needlessly to the ground. I clearly remember this event as I live very near to Park City, Utah. I remember the sadness and even anger that I felt as this famous icon was destroyed. It was an accident that was clearly preventable. Since that day, I have painted several paintings of the Silver King mine building to keep its memory alive. I think I've become somewhat of a preservationist as an artist, trying to capture old buildings in paint in order to preserve their memories. Another iconic landmark of Park City is the McPullen Barn that greets people as they enter the city. Unlike the Silver King mine, it has been carefully protected. I've painted this barn multiple times too, though, just in case something happens to it in the future. I also just finished a commission of 4 historic pioneer homes in Salt Lake City for a family history group, as the descendant of the pioneer who built the homes fears that they may be eventually torn down, and they probably will. Wikipedia says that a preservationist is generally understood to mean historic preservationist, one who advocates to preserve architecturally or historically significant buildings, structures, objects, or sites from demolition or degradation. I think I do fit this bill. My brother, who passed away last fall, was definitely a preservationist also. He couldn't help himself from saving all sorts of antique items from demolition. It was a habit he had to a fault until he had a garage and 2 sheds full of old treasures. When he died, his wife, my sister-in-law, let me and my 4 other siblings come and choose from his treasures what things we might like to keep before a lot of it was sent away or sold. Among the things I chose was a little child's wooden chair and an old metal watering can. I wasn't sure what I'd do with them, but I decided to use the chair as a plant stand on my deck, and I planted some sweet potato vine in the watering can. It sort of became a little ode to my brother, and that's what I'm going to paint today. So I'm going to get started. I want to point out, first of all, how wet the pigments are on my palette. I know a lot of people start out with very dry paint, and I think sometimes that is one of the problems that creates a dry looking painting. I think if you can start with the paintings very moist and soft, you'll get a better result from your painting. And I'm also going to be using a new series of brushes. I'm going to talk about these in a future episode a little more, but they are a replacement for the old low Cornell brushes that I used to use, and I still do use them, but they're starting to wear out. These are called King Art Original Gold. They're round brushes, and this one is a 9000-12 round, a number 12. And like I said, I'll talk about these in a future video. But to start, I'm going to get a nice puddle of an initial triad here, starting with manganese blue. And also permanent alizarin crimson as my red. And then in this painting, because it's a very high key color range in the greens and the flowers, I'm going to use a very high key yellow, which is my cadmium yellow medium. And it's usually, interestingly, the yellow in my triad that kind of indicates whether I'm going to keep the colors bright or dull them back down. And in this case, I've got this very bright yellow. If I want to dull it down, I'll either use yellow ochre or even raw sienna to tone down the triad somewhat. But like I said, I want this to be very bright, cheerful colors this time. And to begin, I'm going to wet the paper a little bit. I'm not even going to try to fill the whole space. I think I'm going to keep this as a little bit of a vignette, which means I'm not going to fill the whole rectangle. That may change as I go on, but to begin here, I'm going to wet that. And notice I'm going to wet into this flower area here because I want these red colors to bleed out into the background so that I've got a diffused background as I start out here. So I'm just going to come into this with like I said, a triad of all three of these colors. And I'm going to jump around the chair because I want that to really stand out when I get to the end. Okay, now I want to show you what I'm talking about when I say that I want that red to bleed out into the background. So I'm going to get a very potent or strong pigment for that red. And you see how it's just bleeding out into the back because I wet that area. Okay. And same down into here. I want some of that color to just go out into the background. And then down in here, I'm going to get some of this green in. leaves here in the watering can and let those bleed out as well. So in this first stage, I'm trying to keep things very loose and bright, but very juicy and fluid. And I'm liking what I've got there, so. This little terracotta pot, I'm going to get in a little bit of that, but it's going to have foliage and things coming around it. And that might be just a little dark for what I want there. Okay. But do you see how those colors just bleed? And they're not necessarily any specific color. When you've got that triad at work, it's just that you want a value, not necessarily a color. And I like to try to keep this first initial value between a 3 and a 5 on the value scale, so it's not too dark. If I start too dark, I'm going to I'm not going to have anywhere to go when I want to get some darks in here. And I'm going to just jump over these little pieces of light that I see on the corner of the chair there. It's kind of hard to see what's going on back in here because there's so much of the foliage and stuff kind of in the way. But that's when you just fudge stuff. Okay. Then I'm going to get some of the foreground in here. I want that usually a foreground is going to be stronger, and I want this to be kind of a blend of a purple. Again, I'm jumping over those little pieces of sunlight. This down in here, I am going to keep that little area in the corner, but I'm not going to put it in yet. I'm going to just leave a lot of these little whites though, so that when I come back it will look like there's all those little lobelia things there. Oh, and I've already jumped into my my ultramarine blue, which is usually saved for the second triad, but I'm already into it. And then I like here how we've got these little shadows of leaves and all sorts of stuff here. That just leaves such a pretty little pattern of whites. Okay, and then this kind of moves into a bit of a warmer area down in here where the deck is showing wood. So I did put a little warmth in it, but then I don't know, I didn't like it so much, so I went back to the purple. When I paint in our filming studio here, my paints are farther away than in my usual studio, so I kind of have a bit of a hard time reaching. Okay, and then I don't want this to just be really totally a hard edge here, so I'm going to just let that kind of bleed out into the floor, or the deck, whatever you want to call it, as I put in my watering can here. And also I can see that some of these little lights here are soft edged, so I'm just gonna kind of soften those out a little bit. Looks like I'm gonna get a little bit of blossoming there, but it'll be okay. Okay. And I'm just having a little bit of a hard time seeing what's going on underneath the chair there, but I'm assuming it's a little bit dark. Because it is underneath the chair and it would be in shadow. So we'll go with this for now and see if I need to change it later. One of the fun things about that, the spout on this watering can, it has a really bright color, kind of a rust color, and I want to get that in there. And then a nice gray on the top of it. go ahead and put a little bit of the cast shadow underneath there. Okay, so this is kind of as much as I'm going to do in this first wash, but then I will go back and clean this up and start putting in more of the darks and finish up in the flowers here. But I like what I've got so far. And I can see that this there's going to be a dark stripe right under the deck railing here. And I think I'm going to put it right here. Okay. And then over here too, I'm going to go ahead and put some of this in between the slats over here. So it looks like there's another fence or something out there. Okay. And then there's a little bit up at the top here too that I'll maybe just indicate that a little bit lightly because I want to let the viewer know that that fence is still there and going on. I kind of goofed up here. I made that really a fat slat, but I'll maybe just lose the kind of edges of those so I don't have a real hard edge at the top there. Okay. I'm going to come back now into the foliage a little bit with some of the dark greens that are going to separate these leaves a little bit. And you'll be able to see that there's, individual leaves there. Okay, so I'm continuing on with this foliage here. Leaving a little bit of that original yellow showing through as highlights. And I want to put in a little bit of these kind of purpley pink flowers. And I've got that too strong. I'm kind of surprising myself that I am not even switching brushes yet to a smaller brush. This has such a nice tip that that I'm not feeling a need to. Okay, now some of this other red. And this is a little more defined. It's closer to us. And then there's some darker green in here. I'm kind of having a hard time getting that purple to read as a purple. Over in here is kind of a little area of white flowers, and I'd like to keep that. So I'm just going to kind of go around it. And then I've got a lot more of the leaves and foliage coming down through here. I don't want to cover up this whole chair. Okay. I can see my value has got to go down a little bit on the pot, whatever it is that's in here. I'll let this kind of dry in here, and then I'll put in a little bit more definition of darks. And this is kind of the same thing I'm doing on the flowers here. It's just giving these geraniums a little bit of, I don't want to go too much up here because I really am liking the diffused stuff going on. Okay, and then I can see that my my values down here have got to be darker. So I'm going to and this painting behind the chair is, do you see how that's really setting that chair forward? In the picture plane. And I do think I am going to come in with some warm terracotta kind of color here. I'm just poking some holes in here that are making it look like the dark part where the hole in the watering can would be. And now this lightens up a little bit in the foreground here. It looks like it's a little bit grayer. I don't want to get too awfully fussy with this little clump in the foreground here. I'm still debating how to treat that, whether I want it really to look in sharp focus or blurred. I probably should do sharp focus to contrast with the diffuse stuff out there, but I'm not sure that's what I want. Okay, I think that value in the foreground is a little better than what it was. One thing I'm going to do over here to kind of let these think I've got to make up one of these. I probably should have done that dark part later on so I matched them up correctly, but I think it's all right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and punch in these really bright flowers here. And that was cadmium red medium, and maybe I actually wanted cadmium red light. Maybe put a little bit of orange in with them to give them a little variation of color. And then a very strong green. I want to make sure I don't cover all the whites in here because that's kind of the fun little part about this part, is all that white in there. And my green is fading into that, and I don't want it quite that muted. I'll come back and pay some more attention to that in a few minutes. I need to come into up in here to give a little bit of idea that, and this is kind of where the painting really comes alive to me, is where you start putting these little painted behind pieces that really push things forward and describe the definition or the dimension in the painting. What I'm trying to say, I guess. But this is also a time that can really make or break the painting as well, because it's kind of easy to overdo this. And then you can be mad that you've undone some of the stuff that you really liked at the beginning. And that happens to me quite a bit. I am going to go down to a smaller brush now. A number 10, which in this series is pretty much the same as a number 8 in the old brushes that were the low Cornells. Okay, I do think I need to describe a little bit back here what's going on. All right, I'm going to go back and put this little bit of dark back here. I think looks like it's the lawn back there. And I'm feeling like my chair needs to come down in value a little bit too. Yeah, I think it does. And I want it to be a bit of a gray, it looks like, so. Not quite that dark. Okay, that's a little better adjustment on the values. I think. I think my watering can is a little bit light too. It's a little better. And we want a little bit, whoops, I didn't want green. A little bit of a deeper shadow in there. This does need to be darker in here to set that little spout off. I'm calming some of these little lights down too. These are the lights in there that are very bright. I want to clean that up just a little bit with some water. And I don't want that dark, want it that dark, but it's got to be That edge of the chair's got to be a little darker. And what is going on right here? I'm just warming up the wood on that chair a little bit. Still adjusting value back in here. As long as you wet the paper, you should be able to come back in on it without a problem. I'm pulling these back out, but they're softer edged now, which I think works a little bit better. I'm really not sure if I like the chair left white. I'm gonna go over it with the light value. Okay, I'm gonna do something really scary here. I'm gonna go over this whole bottom thing with a layer of manganese blue. If you can tell I'm floundering a little bit, I am. I'm not totally happy with the with the foreground. I'm just defining the bottom half of these flowers now, and I'm about ready to call the painting done. Just adding in a little bit more detail. I think I'm done. I just feel like I've kind of closed this all in up in here. And so I've moved into some white gouache, actually. I think I'll call it there. Just a tiny bit of dark down in the flowers here, I think. I think that's it. Preserving historical buildings or objects is something I really love to devote my watercolors to. And I love sharing stories of ancestors in watercolor and the things that are important to me about my family members. One of my ancestors was quoted as saying that he hoped all of his posterity would live good lives so that none of our family would be missing when we got to heaven. I like that statement, and I think this little chair of my brother's reminds me of the popular saying that when it comes to our loved ones and family members, we want no empty chairs in heaven. Thanks for joining me, and if you are interested in learning anything more about your ancestors, there are several really good websites you can go to, and I'll post those down below: Ancestry.com and FamilySearch.com. Thank you. See you next time.